y'all are doing well. We hope that you had a fun and safe New Year's celebration, if you chose to celebrate at all.
Yeah. Or if you're a part of our group, Pajama Crowd.
Yep.
Because
you were
safe at home getting the cats high, and I was in bed.
Yep, you were in bed at 9:30. I came to bed right about midnight, but I didn't watch the ball drop. I just sat up watching TV and fiddling around.
Yeah, watching the cats, making sure they're okay.
Yes, because Cat's not a fan of fireworks or...
Celebratory gunfire.
Yes, that stuff.
Yeah. Now, I've been fighting some congestion, there we go, proper word, gunk, and not losing my voice. Yeah.
Fighting conjunctions?
Conjunction in my head.
So, anyway, as we kick off the new year, January is chock full.
Yeah. It's supposed to be our slow season.
Yeah, so we have...
Haunted dinner.
Haunted dinner this coming Saturday. If you are interested in joining us for that, it is going to be featuring basically, it's going to be the
Victorian Ghost Stories.
Victorian Ghost Stories. It is going to be the last day of the 12, or actually, I guess it is. It's the day after.
Yeah,
it's Three Kings Day.
It's Three Kings
Epiphany or Three Kings Day. So it is like the last day of the Christmas season, and we are going to see it off with one more evening of Victorian Christmas Ghost Stories. We have 3 lined up to share that evening, and everybody who decides to come join us will get their entrees and desserts and all that good stuff as well. It's going to be a fun evening over there at Patrick Henry's Pub. If you want to join us for that, tickets are on sale on our website, hauntsedrichmond.com.
We're about halfway sold out.
We're about half sold.
Let me get my water.
And if you do want to join us, it is not something that you can sign up for the last minute. We need to know at least 24 hours in advance.
So we can let the restaurant know what everybody's eating and they can be well supplied.
Yep. So,
it's courtesy.
If you want to join us for that, and it will be a fun evening, we hope that you will. You can go ahead and sign up for that. Then the following Saturday, we will have one of our John Marshall house tours there, which is also almost halfway sold out already. The 7 o'clock tour is just about full, and then we have an 8 o'clock tour there as well. So if you want to join us for that, get your tickets soon. The weekend after that, we are going to have
Hanover Paracon.
Hanover Tavern Paracon. So we will be up there on Friday evening doing kind of the kickoff celebration. And then we'll be there all day on Saturday as well, and partaking in the festivities in various ways.
Yes, we'll be on a panel. We'll have our table up there. Good times. Chris will be part of the investigation that night. I will, however, be at Poe's birthday bash, doing the Shadows of Chocolate tour that night.
Yep. And if that is not your kind of thing, if you're not up for the Paracon, well, wait, you just said the birthday bash.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so come down and join us at the Poe Museum for our Poe's birthday bash.
Yeah, so that'll be a good time as well. A lot of stuff going on there. And then as far as the general public is concerned, the last weekend will be a relatively normal weekend, but we are having an industry thing with colleagues from the ghost tour community. So that's going to be a big weekend for us.
Yes. But our guides are wonderful, and they're running the show for us while
there will
doing
be
that.
There will still be tours that you can you're more than welcome to join us on. And of course, remember, we basically have availability almost every night. You can go and do the choose your own tour options and stuff like that. So a lot going on. Way to kick off 2024, and hope that you will make us a part of this upcoming year.
Yes. In the meantime, for what you're here for.
Yes, we are going to go ahead and circle back to the state circuit. We haven't done a state themed one in a couple months now.
Yes, so it is time to come back, and all the shows this month are state themed.
Yes, we're going to be playing a little catch up on our haunted states, and tonight we are going to the Pacific Northwest, where we are going to visit the state of Oregon.
Yes.
Which, admittedly, about half of tonight's show revolves around the city of Portland, because, well, that is it's
their major city.
It is the major city. There's there's other parts of Oregon, but as far as ghost stories are concerned, a lot of them come from Portland.
And again, this is just part 1. You know I have a part 2 already started.
So there will be other stories from other parts of the state as well, but yes, maybe a little heavy on the Portland side, but it is what it is.
Yep.
So Anyways, you gotta take it away.
I will take it away. So, from the heights of Crater Lake to the Pacific shore, Oregon's a visually stunning swath of land in the northwestern United States. It also features a deep history with some of the earliest recorded peoples there being the indigenous nations that dates back for thousands of years. And then again, come the mid 1500s, we have the Spanish traders, explorers, and settlers starting to come in from the European nations. It was the early 1800s that the European settlers started to make their permanent mark, however. This is the settlement of some of the communities that have flourished into the modern towns and the cities that dot the Oregon landscape today. It would become the 33rd state to join the Union on February 14th of 1859, and it has since drawn generations to its borders for its natural resources, its adventuresome environment, its industries, and much, much more. All of these people, some of them have left a rather permanent mark, comprising of the many spirits that dot Oregon's landscape today. Let's start with the Witch's Castle, because you know I couldn't resist that one. So, this is in the wooded hills of northwest Portland. It's dotted with picturesque hiking trails in this area, and it's a stone's throw away from the heart of downtown Portland. It's the perfect escape for the nature lovers, the bird watchers, the dog walkers, and those who may be in touch with their witchy side. Here in the Wildwood Trail, just a short 10-minute hike from the closest parking space, you can find the infamous Witch's Castle. Now, while the name alone might give off some spooky vibes, that's not enough to justify kicking off our show tonight. No, the Witch's Castle has a checkered history featuring tales of murder, high school keggers, and a very mundane use as a hiker's rest area. Yeah. The stone ruins of McClure Park have lived a number of lives. But let's start back at the beginning. In 1850, well before the structure was built, a man named Danford Balch, settled a tract of 346 acres with his wife and their 9 children on the outskirts of the newly founded city of Portland. It was a big enough area that he hired a neighbor, Mortimer Stump, to help clear the land. Over time, Stump and Balch's daughter, Anna, fell in love. And once Anna reached the age of 18, Stump asked Balch for Anna's hand in marriage. Balch refused, resulting in Stump and Anna threatening to elope. Balch was furious. He told Stump that he would rather murder him if they did. The young couple didn't heed the warning and soon fled to the nearby community of Vancouver, Washington, to elope in November of 1858. When Balch learned of the elopement, he became deeply depressed, which led to days of no sleeping and heavy drinking. Not a good combination. A couple of weeks after the elopement, Anna and Stump's parents returned to Portland to shop for homesteading supplies for the newly married couple. After finishing their shopping, the party loaded their supplies onto a ferry to cross the river, but Balch had learned of their presence in town. He boarded the ferry, drew up a double-barreled shotgun, and fired on Stump. To quote the Weekly Oregonian newspaper, the shot took effect in the neck and the lower part of his face. Stump fell dead, and Balch was immediately arrested by bystanders. The murder shook the community to its core, and until the murder, Balch had been considered an honest and industrious man of good character. Stump was regarded as a respectable young man. At trial in August of 1859, Balch would make the claim that his wife bewitched him into carrying out the deed. Such claims were dismissed, and Balch was convicted and condemned. He was executed by hanging in October 17th of 1859. Balch's execution was the first legal execution in Portland. After Balch's execution, his family fortunes dwindled. Balch had taken out a loan against the land, and in the wake of the execution, the land was sold to pay back those debts. The Balch family would effectively be scattered, with each of those who were old enough to care for themselves leaving to find their own way. While the land would change hands over the following years, it would continue to be known as Balch's Addition, and in 1897 the land was turned over to the city of Portland by the owner, Donald Mackley. It was turned into a public park at this time. In the 1930s, the city built a large stone structure in the park to house restrooms, a picnic shelter, and a tool room. Designed by the architect Ernest F. Tucker, who also contributed to the first designs of the Portland Zoo. The building was officially called Mackley's Park Shelter. The shelter was a rustic gem against the natural beauty of Balch's Canyon. Unfortunately, the structure was abandoned after the plumbing system was severely damaged during the Columbus Day storm of 1962. That storm is considered to be amongst the most powerful extratropical cyclones recorded in the U.S. in the 20th century. Today, there's little left to mark its form or function. The stone walls and steps remain to this day, conjuring images of ancient ruined castles of Europe. In the 1980s, high school students discovered the stone house, and they quickly named it the Witch's Castle. It became a rite of passage to host parties there on Friday nights, and many believe that the structure got its name from the fact that Balch had accused his wife of bewitchment, but the true origin has never actually been nailed down. There's also a theory that it was given the nickname by young kids who would sneak off to the woods after dark, claiming there was a dark and unnatural rituals that occurred on that spot where the stone now sits. Despite the moss that covers the roofless ruins and the graffiti that stains the walls, people continue to visit the Witch's Castle. During many of these visits, the spooky nature of the building has stepped forward in some truly unsettling ways. Flickering orbs of light, whispers of ghostly children, and heart-stopping screams from the wilderness are amongst the activity that's most frequently reported around the Witch's Castle. But there's so much more.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. When the building was being used as a ranger station, many of the visitors reported intense feelings of unease. Most notably, they expressed to others the feeling of homesickness when they were walking around the area. A few of these visitors reported more specifically sensing that a passage was present nearby that would take them somewhere else should they step into it. They would say that the thought of entering the passage gave them the feeling that they were heading home. While we can't claim to know where such a portal would actually have taken these people, we can't help but feel that home would not have been their final destination. But it's not their home.
Mm-mm.
Visitors have also described hearing the death call of the barred owl in the woods, which would not be unusual considering the setting. However, these sounds have sometimes been accompanied by an apparition of a man in clothes from the 19th century, walking around hooting. This figure, who was clearly a step out of time and perhaps a little out of sorts, will take the noted visitors to the forest and he will start asking for Anna. These sightings occur most often during October around the anniversary of Balch's execution. The local folklore says that Balch wanders the woods looking for his daughter with only the owls to speak to. Some take the legend a step further and say that Anna and her beloved Stump remain on the land as well, and that neither of them harbors any affection for Balch. Reports of feuding spirits in the night imply that there is a mutual disdain that has carried over into the afterlife in the area around Witch's Castle. So if you decide to go for a twilight walk in this corner of Portland, just know you might know, no matter what you might see, more importantly what you might not see, you're likely not alone. So who's joining us tonight?
So tonight we have Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
And we have Mac.
Hey, Mac.
So I don't know if he's actively watching, but he at least chimed in and took the time to point out that it is a leap year and it will be spooky 366.
Hashtag spooky 366.
Hashtag spooky 366. So if anybody regularly follows our page and our posts, you'll know that our guide and very good friend Mac will regularly post on there with the hashtag spooky365, but
we need to make it spooky 366.
it is a leap year this year. So it just means that anybody who works on salary for the year basically gets to work a day for free. Like me. Yeah. Anyways, no, we're not. No, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not.
But, anyways. Oh, and if anybody who does regularly watch, Lee, not able to make it tonight, obviously, hasn't chimed in yet, but they have been doing they've been working a lot of evenings, which is good for them because work is good. Or
Work pays the rent.
Work pays the rent. But looking forward to being able to come back and get back on some of these shows down the road. So, if any of you are wondering. Now, our next stop is going to be, actually we're going just a short walking distance, actually, from the Witch's Castle. This is a brisk 2-mile hike with a 600-foot climb. So it's not necessarily
Get
for
your hiking boots on.
Yeah, have your hiking boots, not for the faint of heart. But this will lead you up a mountain to the Pittock Mansion. Now, perched atop this hill with a beautiful view of the city of Portland and Mount Hood almost 70 miles away, the Pittock Mansion is a historic gem in Portland's landscape. Built in 1914, the mansion is a stunning chateau-styled abode which was nearly razed to create a subdivision in the 1960s before Portland residents came together to save it. Built by Oregonian publisher Henry Pittock, the home once symbolized the heights of Portland's wealthy elite, but just after 4 years in its gilded walls, both homeowners died. Now it is said both of their spirits still hang around the mansion, as many strange occurrences have been reported in the following years. Mountaineering and publishing magnate Henry Pittock was born in London on March 1st of 1835, but he spent most of his childhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he attended preparatory school and worked in his father's printing business starting at the age of 12. But inspired by stories of Western expansion and the frontier, Pittock and his brother joined 2 other families traveling west and landed barefoot and without a cent in Oregon Territory in October of 1835. He found work as a typesetter for the founder of the Weekly Oregonian in Portland and eventually became the paper's managing editor. Around this time, Pittock met his wife, Georgiana, and they married in 1860. Pittock went on to become one of the wealthiest men in Oregon society as the man behind the city's major newspaper, and he consequently invested in a variety of industries including railroads, banking, ranching, and mining. Pittock was also an avid climber and outdoorsman who helped to found the Mazamas Climbing Club and became part of the first expedition to climb Mount Hood. Georgiana, too, was an active member of society, becoming involved in many cultural organizations and charities, including the Women's Union and the Ladies' Relief Society. She helped to found the Martha Washington Home, a residence for working women, and she also was an enthusiastic gardener and was a founding member of the Portland Rose Society and the Portland Rose Festival. In 1909, the Pittocks decided that they wanted to build a home in Portland to retire in. With big plans in mind, the Pittocks hired architect Edward T. Folke to design their mansion from scratch. The 46-room mansion was uniquely designed inside and out. Its French Renaissance exterior envelops an interior rich with oak paneling and marble floors. There is also an eye-catching central staircase and modern amenities such as an elevator. Foil lines the inside of the entryway ceiling, a nod to Georgiana's frugal early days when she had to save foil from old tea containers in order to decorate the house. Pittock Mansion was completed in 1914 when Georgiana was 68 and Henry was 80. So sadly, the couple did not have many years left together. Georgiana passed away in 1918, just 4 years after construction, and Henry died the following year. Members of the Pittock family remained in the home for many years until their grandson, Peter Gantenben, who had grown up in the house, attempted to sell it in 1958. And I'm sure I butchered that last name. I sincerely apologize. Now, unfortunately, Peter was unable to do so, and the house consequently sat empty for several years. It was severely damaged as a result of the massive Columbus Day storm of 1962, and Peter contemplated having the mansion destroyed. However, the community rallied around the famous site, and Portland residents donated $75,000 to help the city purchase and restore the old home. The city of Portland officially bought the Pittock Mansion in 1964, and a nonprofit was formed to take responsibility for the upkeep of the house. They spent just over a year repairing and restoring the mansion, and in 1965 it reopened as the Pittock Mansion Museum, and it is today open daily to the public for tours. And it's on these tours that many have claimed to encounter inexplicable experiences, perhaps with the late Pittocks themselves. Perhaps it is the Pittocks because the Pittocks died shortly after moving in, that they are said to still haunt there today. For the amount of work that went into the place, who could blame them for wanting to spend a little bit more time there? Visitors to the house have reported seeing windows shutting and latching on their own, the sounds of heavy footsteps, and a portrait of Henry Pittock moving around the house. Tour guides have apparently.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So tour guides have reported encountering figures when they open the mansion for business in the mornings. Most folks who visit here are not even familiar with the hauntings. There have been stories of people capturing photos of a strange woman reflected in mirrors, even when alone in the room, only to discover later someone else in the photo as well. Some people say they have smelled the unmistakable scent of roses, Georgiana's favorite flower. Apparitions of the couple, as well as the head groundskeeper, have reportedly been seen and felt following visitors as they tour the mansion. All the reports seem to indicate that the ghosts are far from malicious. Rather, they perhaps get the sense that the ghosts are peaceful and happy to be showing guests around their beautifully restored home. Even in death, the Pittocks remain gracious hosts to those who arrive on their doorstep.
I just find the rose scent interesting because was it rose or was it lilac that we scented when we were at the exchange hotel?
I thought it was lilac.
That was lilac, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you've experienced a ghostly scent phenomenon, that is really, really amazing. And our friends at CPRI are actually trying to get devices that they can actually have little vials that can hopefully capture air readings and what's in the air at that moment in time when one of those phenomenons happen. So I'm hoping they get those.
Yes, they've been trying it at a couple places, but I've yet to hear any results.
Yeah. They're also they're not cheap. Which is why they're very hesitant to use them every single time they're out.
Yeah. But yeah, they basically have to wear them.
Yeah.
They wear them on their chest, and as they're walking around, if they catch an unexpected scent, they're supposed to like hit a button and it activates and it sucks in the air.
And then they send that off to be tested.
Yeah, but just to make sure that they get the air that's kind of close to their nose, they basically have to wear the unit, and it's cumbersome, it's not cheap, and so time will tell whatever comes of that.
But it'll be cool if they actually get interesting data back.
It would be very fascinating.
So
I think Yuna's happy. I don't know. You might be able to just barely. Yeah, I think you can see Yuna's ear sticking up there at the bottom. She is all curled up in front of the fire here, very pleased with herself.
Yes. All right, you may have to take over halfway through this. I'm starting to lose.
Okay. Do you want me to carry on right now?
Yeah, because this is a longer one. I'll do a shorter one.
Okay.
As I said, folks, I am dealing with congestion issues and losing my voice.
Yeah. The joys of the winter months.
Yay! Hey, I made it through the tour.
I mean, admittedly, I do love the winter months.
I do too.
The gunk that comes with it, maybe not so much, but I like the shorter days. I like the cooler weather. I like being able to throw a fire in the fireplace. It's my thing. I know maybe other people not so much, but I like it. Anyways, we are going to now move from the outskirts of Portland right into the heart of downtown, where we will find shops and restaurants where tourists gather, completely unaware of what lies beneath their feet. Because lying beneath the ground is a series of 150-year-old tunnels that connect the basements of the city's oldest buildings to the Willamette River as well as Portland's Chinatown. The tunnels were built by Chinese workers during the time when Chinatown was the center for trade business. The tunnel's origins date the tunnel's original design was for transporting goods from cargo ships to the inner city. By using the tunnels, the ship's crew could avoid the hassle of inner-city traffic. This was good for the business of Portland because many of them stored their goods in their basements. But unbeknownst to the good people of Portland, the tunnels had a much more nefarious use. Portland was a small town at the time, but it had a large port that could support many ships. Many cargo ships sailed for many months across the Pacific before unloading their cargo in Portland. Because of this, sailors had a very short window of downtime before they had to pack up and set sail again. Many sailors spent their time drinking in the bars or fighting in the saloons. Some sailors took the opportunity to abandon their life at sea because they feared death by disease or debilitating injury. This would leave sea captains with empty positions that they would have to fill in order to leave port on time. People were, oftentimes, reluctant to sign up for long sea voyages, so crooked captains would hire men to Shanghai replacement sailors for $50 a head. This is where the Shanghai tunnels get their name from. Men looking to make a quick buck would prowl Portland's bars, saloons, and taverns, looking for young, able-bodied men who were alone. These Shanghaiers would wait until their target was drunk, then take them down to the basement. They would knock the man unconscious and drag him through the Shanghai tunnels to the docks. Once on board the ships, these men chose labor over starvation. Rather practical choice, I suppose, given the situation. Some men managed to escape the ships and warn the public about the Shanghaiers. Stories about the Shanghaiers circulated Portland, and soon men became more cautious when drinking out at the bars. When abducting men became difficult, savvy Shanghaiers kidnapped women instead. Women who frequented bars alone became easy prey for the Shanghaiers. Many bars had trap doors that were sprung on unsuspecting women. Once the woman fell into the tunnel, it was almost impossible to get back out. Prostitution rings often used tunnels to hold groups of women in cages for long periods of time. This gave them enough time to secure buyers outside of Portland. So yeah, rather nasty bit of history down there. Now, Chinatown had many different conflicting gang groups who oftentimes had their own separate tunnels towards the docks. They used the tunnels to sneak in immigrants as well as goods and drugs. Many different brothels, bars, and gambling layers received these goods and people through their own personal tunnels and trapdoors. Like most of the gangs in the area, using these methods prevented them from being busted by the police. During Prohibition, the Shanghai tunnels became underground expressways. Shanghaiers used the tunnels to transport alcohol shipments from ships on the Willamette River to bars all over Portland. Bars, hotels, and taverns often used secret passages into the Shanghai tunnels to conduct their business away from prying eyes. Police routinely raided bars during Prohibition, making daily operations impossible for bar owners. To combat this, bar owners began stashing their alcohol supply deep in the Shanghai tunnels to avoid arrest. Hidden doors were also commonly used in bars during this time. Police officers raided bars, taverns, and saloons in large groups, which made it impossible for criminals to escape. Bar owners used hidden doors and passages to hide their business associates when they were on the run. Once the police concluded their business, the criminal would return to his seat at the bar and, have another drink. Once police officers realized that businesses and gangs were using the tunnels, they began to conduct searches of them. But police officers were oftentimes unsuccessful because of the tunnel's sheer expansiveness. Gangsters and bar owners had long since mapped out the underground passages and knew exactly where to hide their goods. Today, the Shanghai tunnels are used mainly as a tourist attraction for people to explore. During the height of its operation, an estimated 2,000 people a year were shanghaied through Portland's underground tunnels. According to experts, many unfortunate souls never made it out alive. Many were beaten, starved, and left for dead deep within the tunnels. Gangs used the tunnels for their hideout and would oftentimes drag their victims down into the tunnels to keep them from talking to the police. There is evidence that the gangs even kept disobedient members in the tunnels as a form of punishment. Sometimes the disobedient gangster would be left by themselves with no light. Sometimes the gangs would retrieve their man after a certain period of time. Other times, they wouldn't. Some parts of the tunnels go on for miles and miles. It would be easy to get lost in the dark, especially without a light to see where you were going. The labyrinth of underground tunnels is still explored today, although no one should explore the tunnels by themselves, lest they wind up like so many souls before who never emerged from the tunnels alive. With a grim and dark history, the Shanghai tunnels have amassed a substantial number of reports of haunting activities. Travelers report feeling watched from the shadows, and some of them have come face to face with the tunnel's most well-known spirit, an Asian man that explorers have taken to calling Sam. Sam likes to move things around in the tunnels as explorers walk by, and he's also been credited with messing with the lights in the tunnels. One tour guide reported hearing a voice calling out the name Sam over and over again. It echoed through the tunnel, scaring his guests. And because his entire group was behind him, he knew that it was not one of them, leaving it as probably the most terrifying experience of his own life as well. Many tunnel tourists say that Sam is a good ghost and look forward to feeling his presence. Other tunnel spirits are known as tricksters who just love to have a good time. They will often pull at your shirt tail or gently tug at the ends of your hair. One guest reported feeling a small tug on her shirt before she tripped. While she was not hurt, it was still an experience that she would never forget. While many of the ghosts down in the Shanghai tunnels are surprisingly friendly, or at least content to mind their own business, it is good to remain cautious. The era of being shanghaied through the tunnels of Portland has long passed, but there remains a weight and an energy that can still take you unawares.
I was trying to keep up with comments while you were reading.
Okay.
Alright, so this is a funny one because, like 2 weeks ago, we had the two ladies that were from Portland and Seattle area.
Yes,
from Seattle.
they were from Seattle.
Yeah, and so they mentioned that they often get together on a girlfriend trip, and they won't go someplace haunted. And so we mentioned, we were going to be going to Seattle later on, and they said, yeah, we did one that was not far from there. It was up in Oregon. It was a hot lake hotel location. I'm like, I just researched that place. It's on our upcoming script. So it was kind of funny that it was mentioned by one of our guests not too long ago. But this is known as the Hot Lake Hotel La Grande. And of course, this is leaving Portland, heading east along the border with Washington State. And this is the city of La Grande in the northeast corner. Outside of the town, you can find what is now known as the Lodge at Hot Lake Springs, but many still know it by its older, simpler name, the Hot Lake Hotel. You will read this hotel was first discovered on August 7th of 1812 by Robert Stewart of the Winston Price Hunt Party. Prior to European settlement of the area, the hot springs that fed Hot Lake may have been used as a place of healing and a meeting grounds between various native tribes. In the 1840s, Hot Lake became a resting place for families who were traveling along the Oregon Trail. The Hot Lake Hotel was the first permanent structure to go up on the site in 1864, complete with bathhouses, a post office, a dance hall, a barber shop, and of course a blacksmith. Until 1884, this isolated hotel was relatively unknown. Now, this was the first year of the Pacific Railroad, and it put Hot Lake on the map, linking Oregon with the transcontinental system, cutting right through the middle of Hot Lake property. As the property continued to grow in the 1900s, by 1908, a 105-room brick building was completed, and the new building's first floor was complete with lobby, offices, kitchen, parlor, and dining hall. The second floor was made up entirely for guests. By 1917, a man by the name of Dr. Phi purchased the property. Under the new owner's direction, the hotel took on a dual purpose, housing a hospital on the third floor, complete with a surgery and room for patients. He renamed the resort to Hot Lake Sanatorium and even added a modern x-ray facility to the hospital. Radiation treatments were done here, along with experimenting with the geothermal waters to treat various ailments. Shortly thereafter, between 1924 and 1934, the resort hospital caught worldwide attention as the hotel averaged 124 new guests daily. At this point, there was now over 300 rooms for guests. Unfortunately, like many hotels of this era, on May 7th of 1934, a fire broke out and destroyed much of the resort, reducing it to roughly half the size it once was, and leaving only the brick building standing. Due to the devastating fire and the Depression, business was never the same, at least for about 70 years.
Good.
Yep, that's right. I'm not allowed to talk. Anyway, the property changed hands many times, and even with multiple grants and support from the government, the new owner struggled to get this once grand place back on its feet. During World War II, the location was used as a pilot school and a nursing training center. Around 1953, the facility was licensed to give nursing care. This lasted until 1975, when the nursing home closed. For a couple of short years after that, the building became a restaurant and a country western nightclub. That didn't last long. There was the lack of business.
A country western nightclub and was almost the middle of nowhere, Oregon. Questionable business decision, I must say.
I mean, unless they were hoping there was a League of Vampires nearby, I don't know.
Little
That's
dusk,
a movie just waiting to happen.
little dusk till dawn action.
Yes.
I mean, that was a great movie.
Yes, it was, and you know this is where the sequel needs to be.
So, brilliant. Let's make it happen.
Make it so.
Make it so.
It wasn't until 1983 that Dr. Lyle Griffith took over. He started Hot Lake Company, which was both a bath and a massage business. That business closed in 1991, resulting in a hotel hospital remaining vacant. Gradually, the abandoned building fell into major disrepair. And by this time, the fascinating Hot Lake Hotel earned a reputation for being extremely haunted. Over the many years, witnesses have claimed to have heard and seen such strange things that they could not explain in and around the resort. Visitors often recount seeing spectral figures walking around the grounds, many of which are believed to be those of vacationers and asylum patients from generations past. An apparition of a man in work clothes is also believed to be a former gardener who committed suicide on the property. Disembodied voices, whispering, and footsteps have also been reported throughout the hotel as well. And when the resort first opened, a piano formerly owned by Robert E. Lee's wife was acquired and placed on the hotel's third floor. To this day, people still hear this piano playing by itself. FYI, the piano ain't there no more.
Yeah. So, little phantom piano music going on.
Yeah. At one time, owner Donna Patty and her husband and their caretaker Richard Owens had several strange experiences while they lived on the second floor in the 1970s. They often heard screams and crying coming from what was once the hospital surgery room. They also saw rocking chairs moving on their own accord. In 2003, the dilapidated hotel was purchased by the Manuel family. David and Lee Manuel spent millions of dollars over 7 years restoring the property. The gallery and the foundry opened for visitors in 2005, and they also offer tours highlighting the restoration process of the hotel. In 2010, the building reopened as a bed and breakfast with dozens of restored rooms, a spa, a restaurant, and a museum. And of course, the hot spring-fed pools for a little R&R. So if you're looking for a haunted getaway where you can also reconnect a bit with nature, this is the place you're looking for.
They are very, very hot springs, by the way. Apparently they maintain them between like 104 and 106 degrees.
Perfect for me, not so good for
No, I would
You would melt.
I would shrivel up or melt or something. That would be a lot for me.
That's the reason why I'm known as the Dragon Queen here.
But it is pretty. I've looking at the pictures, like really nice pictures of these hot spring little spa pools that they have, looking over the lake and all that.
I was like, yeah, you know what? If I want to disconnect from the world for a day or two, I'm all for that place. Road trip. If we ever get that sponsor, so Chris and I can go take this show on the road.
Okay.
We'll make it a vlog instead.
You coming with us?
Get a camper.
She is out cold.
She's a toasty kitty.
Nice and toasty in front of the fireplace. She is out cold.
We'd have to get them harness trained.
We would. We've been trying, but
Oh.
anyways, well, we haven't tried in a while.
No, we haven't, because I don't know if some of the harnesses will fit anymore.
They probably don't even fit anymore. They used to be too big. Now they're probably too small. Anyways, so yeah, we are going to go ahead and take a U-turn, and we are going to head back out to the Oregonian coast.
Because I couldn't do a state with a border on the ocean and not do a lighthouse.
So, go ahead, look up a picture of this place.
It's gorgeous.
Hecate?
Hecate.
No, that's not.
Hecate. Oh, you're right. Hecate.
Hecate Head Lighthouse. So, this is right about at the midpoint of the state's coastline. So, kind of halfway between Washington and California, right there, dead center on the coast. And you can find this Hecate Head Lighthouse. And it's here that we find tales of a gray-haired woman wearing a late Victorian-era dress. This spectral figure has been seen floating down the hallway of the one-time keeper's house. Sounds of sweeping and furniture being moved at night come from the locked, empty attic. The simple yet beautiful Queen Anne-style house with a red roof has overlooked the craggy rocks and pounding waves of the Pacific Ocean for more than a century. The lighthouse was first illuminated on March 30th of 1894 and has been home to many keepers and their families. The light is named after Bruno de Hecate, who was a Portuguese or Basque sailor under the Spanish flag and saw the Cape in 1775. The Spanish were seeking new colonies in geopolitical race against the British, French, Russians, and later the Americans. The waters along the coast here are notorious for their hazards, as many mariners have met their end in this otherwise beautiful corner of the world. The lighthouse, intended to help sailors avoid a watery graves, towers 56 feet from its base, placing it a total of 102 feet above sea level. The Hecate Head Lighthouse is known to be the most powerful light on the Oregon coast. Its light can be seen 21 miles out to sea and is hampered only by the curvature of the earth. The original construction consisted of the lighthouse tower, a single building that served as a home for the head keeper, a duplex building where the two assistant keepers lived, and several storage-type buildings. The single building was demolished in 1940, and the lumber was used to build the Alphabet Cafe in Mapleton, Oregon, so you can go ahead and see that repurposed lumber, which is about 14 miles east of the lighthouse. The lighthouse was automated in 1963, and at that point, there was no longer a need for a lightkeeper. But aside from the keepers, the site served as a military barracks during World War II, and as a satellite campus for Lane Community College from 1970 to 1995. Over the last couple decades, it has operated as a bed and breakfast with rooms for 15 guests, or 16 if you count the resident ghost. The exact identity of the ghost is unknown, but she has been known as Rue for many years, ever since a group of college students huddled around a Ouija board, asking questions, and the board spelled out R-U-E. So, Haunts of Richmond does not endorse the use of Ouija boards, but here it is in our story. Take it as you will. Now.
Well, no, we're just stating how they came with the name.
Yes. Anyways, so the bed and breakfast manager, Misty Anderson, said at the house.
Take two.
Okay. Bed and breakfast manager, Misty Anderson, says of Rue, she doesn't ever do anything scary or harmful or threatening. It's more like she's watching over the place, watching the house, and looking for her daughter. The theory is that Rue was a lighthouse keeper's wife, although records can't confirm that because they didn't list the keeper's wives or children.
Unless they actually took the place of the keeper, which did happen historically.
They oftentimes did, because
If the keeper died, the wife took over.
you couldn't abandon the lighthouse, period.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, but that's the only way that they were ever named.
yeah.
Which
So.
stinks, by the way.
It is. It's not really fair at all. But the favored story, not necessarily proven fact, is that Rue had two daughters and one of them drowned. Now, whether it was in the ocean or in a cistern, Anderson says that it's, up for debate. There is an unmarked grave up on the hillside. It's all overgrown and has been left undisturbed. After the child's death, Rue left Hecate Head, but she ultimately returned after her own passing some years later, trying to find her daughter, maybe a little bit of unfinished business. The inn does not play up the resident ghost. It doesn't really have to. Some guests are simply drawn to Rue, requesting Victoria's room, where the lightkeepers are said to have slept, or the Cape Cove room, where a closet contains the steep stairs leading to the locked attic. Other guests just prefer not to know. Probably the most startling encounter with Rue was reported by the Newslaw News in 1975. It was this point in time that a workman named Jim Anderson was cleaning a window in the house's attic and noticed an odd reflection in the glass. He swung around and saw an apparition of an elderly woman wearing a late Victorian-style gown, according to the report. He fled the house and didn't return for several days. But he did return to work to go ahead and work on the house's exterior. He refused to go in the attic again. And he accidentally broke an attic window while working outside. He repaired it from the outside and left the broken glass on the attic floor. That night, the house caretakers were awakened by scraping sounds in the attic. They said it sounded like somebody was sweeping broken glass, although they hadn't learned yet about the broken window. The next morning, they found the glass swept into a neat pile, according to the report. Many guests have noticed items in their rooms being moved or rearranged when no one had been in that room. In some cases, items go missing only to be returned later. Anderson says that things don't go missing for long. If anything, it has just been moved in their room and it usually stays in their room. I can't think of anything that's been completely gone. It just moves. While harmless, it is said that Rue does not like her home being disturbed by others. When volunteers were painting the house, fire alarms kept going off. Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, again.
One of the workers would have to get up and make sure that there was in fact no fire. Once he made sure that there was no fire, he went back to bed, but the alarm would go off again.
Been
This
there,
time,
done that. Been there, done that.
yeah. This time, he made the questionable decision, but maybe understandable, to remove the battery from the smoke detector. But the
Not going to work with the ghost, by the way.
Yeah, the alarm kept going off.
Yeah. Still not going to work with the ghost.
So, Anderson says that Rue's activities can be an asset to a business or a hindrance depending on how people feel about it. But they're doing just fine. Now, the inn is a year-round facility. You can go ahead and visit at any time, but it is typically full between March and September. And it is also a popular venue for weddings and other events. Another lovely and haunted place to hang your hat if you want to visit Oregon's beautiful scenery. And we do have one last story for you tonight. Do you want me to carry on?
Oh, I'm just replying to Beverly, who said, a ghost that tidies up. Nice. I said, where can we hire one?
Yeah.
Please? I got 4 cats. I need some help. The Roomba can't do it all.
You want to read?
I'll let you go.
Okay. I was wondering. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can keep up on, try to keep up on
that's why I keep looking at my lap. I have the comments going here.
So, anyway, so, moving, I think this is the last one. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. We have one more very, very short one after this.
I was going to do the short one.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So, next, we are moving north along the coast until we get to the northwesternmost point of the state, a peninsula within that has the Columbia River on one side and the Pacific Ocean on the other. And this is the home of Fort Stevens State Park. And it is here that we have Battery Russell, an imposing defensive structure that has long since been abandoned. An eerie, haunting place that is easy to see why it is rumored to harbor ghosts of years gone by. From the Civil War through World War II, hundreds of brave men fought to protect the shores of Oregon. And I'm sorry, excuse me.
Do you need water?
Okay. And their ghosts are believed to remain behind, perhaps unaware their fight has long ago ended. In 1863, as the Civil War ravaged on, the fort began construction to serve as guardian to Oregon's exposed South Shore. Originally dubbed Fort at Point Adams, Fort Stevens was renamed in honor of former Washington Governor Isaac Stevens, who was killed on the battlefield. But before the fort could be completed, the Civil War drew to a close, and the encampment remained unmanned for 2 decades. In 1884, the Army Corps of Engineers used the fort as a base while they completed construction on the nearby Columbia River Channel. Then another decade of inactivity passed Fort Stevens until 1896, when the Army began to see the value of Fort Stevens for coastal defense purposes. Concrete gun installations known as Battery Russell were added to modernize and fortify the base. Construction was finalized in 1904. Although it stood at the ready, Fort Stevens did not actually see warfare until World War II. The fort was activated in the summer of 1941 and not long after experienced the first stateside installation. It was the first stateside installation to suffer an attack since the Civil War. In June of 1942, a Japanese submarine fired 17 shells at Battery Russell. The shots did not damage the fort, partly because the commander had ordered a blackout. Thinking quickly, the commander also refused his men's request to return fire, knowing that it would reveal the fort's exact position to the Japanese. The massive submarine was also just out of range of Battery Russell's guns. The emplacements of Battery Russell, as well as the remaining buildings of Fort Stevens, are in good condition. All of the old guns and cannons from wars past have long since been removed, but the buildings are still open to the public. Visitors wanting to tour the area can walk through the buildings, the museum, and Civil War era reconstructions of earth ramparts. Teeming with history and local wildlife, Fort Stevens is a great place to take a relaxing hike, but if you decide to go camping in the area, keep an eye out for a piece of history that may still linger. Even though no casualties were recorded at Fort Stevens, hikers and other tourists have reported paranormal activity and unexplained events in the area, including men dressed in World War II era military uniforms and strange glowing orbs of light near the fort.
See, not all ghosts are from the Victorian era. You know I had to do that.
One group of campers stopped to pitch their tents near the fort one summer evening. Even before night fell, members of the group began to feel uneasy, as if someone or something were watching them. Deciding to ignore their gut feeling, the group finished setting up their campground, made their dinner, and crawled into their tents to sleep. But that night was to be a long and restless one. Just as the campers were beginning to drift off to sleep, the sound of gravel crunching under boots jolted them awake. One of the campers reported an inexplicable, eerie feeling as if all of the hairs on the back of his neck stood right up. Unsure of what to do, the group remained silent inside their tent as the boots paced back and forth outside. Soon enough, whoever it was left, and the terrified group of campers eventually managed to fall asleep. The next morning, the campers ventured out of their tents and found boot prints that were unlike any they had seen before. Confused and thoroughly creeped out, the group decided to skip the hike they had planned for that morning and head straight back for their car instead. They made it safely inside, but just as they were driving away, one of them looked back to see the figure of a tall man dressed in a World War II era military uniform, watching them intensely as they left. Another tourist to the area reported walking down the craggy shore not far from Fort Stevens in the early evening. It was chilly out, so he had the beach mostly to himself. As he walked along, he could see the figure of a man approaching. The man appeared to be wearing clothing of a deep army green color, and the man remembers thinking that he carried himself in a stiff, almost regal manner. As the two men got closer to one another, the tourist could begin to make out the details of the man's strange clothing. The man did in fact appear to be wearing a military uniform, but one of a distant, time-worn war. The two passed one another, each nodding in polite acknowledgement. Almost immediately after he had passed, the tourist turned his head to get another look at the mysterious man, only to find he had vanished entirely. Confused, he glanced up and down the beach, but the man was nowhere to be found. The man ran up and down the shore and stopped inside every hotel looking for the strange man he had seen, but to no avail. Determined to find an answer, he went back to his own hotel, where he remembered seeing a book dedicated to soldiers who manned the base during the bombardment of Fort Stevens. Frantically, he flipped through the black and white pages, and then he found it. There, looking back at him from the pages of the book, was the man he had just seen on the beach, dressed in his World War II military uniform. It seemed the long-dead commander just wanted to enjoy a quiet walk along the beach. The souls of his fellow soldiers don't always appear quite as conspicuously. Many hikers and other visitors to Fort Stevens report spotting strange glowing orbs drifting around the military encampment. On clear nights when the moon is full, some visitors claim to have seen as many orbs as there are stars in the sky. It seems the spirits of the men who served at Fort Stevens feel eternally drawn to it. Today, Fort Stevens stands as a living relic to the wars that built it, a time-worn testament to America's relentless spirit. Although it wasn't the site of any bloody battles, Fort Stevens remains an important piece of military history and holds a special place as the defender of the great river of the West.
Sweetie, don't get any closer to that. You cannot become one with the fire. Alright.
She will try.
She will try. She likes being toasty warm.
Oh, she is warm.
She's baking her head right now.
Is you baking your brain? She is. Oh. Anyways.
We're gonna zoom these tonight.
One last story.
Alright, so this one is a combination of a haunted road, but also one of the urban myths.
Yes.
In Oregon.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah, so it all begins in a secluded stretch of U.S. Highway 101 in Cannon Beach. It's just a short 30-minute drive south of Fort Stevens. Here you have the enduring legend of the Bandage Man.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dating back to the late 1950s, this mysterious entity is said to haunt the Route 26 overpass. Its first recorded encounter was with a young couple who sat parked in their pickup truck near the beach. Suddenly, the truck moved as if somebody had climbed into the cargo bed. They turned and looked through the back window and saw a disfigured man covered in bloody bandages rocking back and forth. They reported that he did start beating on the back window and the roof. They raced away down the highway, and the bandaged man disappeared somewhere along the way just as suddenly as he had appeared. Others have since reported seeing the bandaged man jumping into the open bed trucks in a convertible car's back seat. Others said they have seen him walking along the beach, down highway, U.S. Highway 101, and on a short road called Bandage Man Road. Because if you got an urban legend, you're going to have a road named after it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, as you do.
Some people believe he's the tormented ghost of a logger who died after a horrific accident while working in the area in the 1930s. He was wrapped up in bandages and sent away in an ambulance. However, the ambulance fell victim to a landslide en route to the hospital. When the rescue crew arrived at the landslide location, he was reportedly gone. Some witnesses' accounts say that he tries to jump into passing cars, which is why some of the locals avoid driving down U.S. Highway 26 after dark. The Bandage Man was the subject of 1974 University of Oregon's Northwest folklore research study titled The Bandage Man Legend, a Cannon Beach Legend. The study explores the haunted tales and legends passed down since the 1950s, and he was the focus of a 2003 horror comedy film called The Bandage Man.
They're very creative with their naming conventions.
Directed by multi-award-winning Irish filmmaker Ivan Kavanagh.
Ivan Kavanagh.
I don't know what I was doing. The movie says pretty true to the legend. It tells of a man who regularly travels at night on the U.S. 26 overpass, despite the warnings not to do so. As it turns out, the man is looking for Bandage Man, who he visits weekly to provide with another dog to eat.
Rude.
The most recent documented sighting of the Bandage Man actually occurred in 2019. Not that long ago.
He's still kicking around.
And if you're willing to test your luck, take your own truck or convertible out for a ride on Cannon Beach after dark. You could be the next to encounter Bandage Man.
He needs a museum.
I mean,
Mothman has a museum. He needs a museum.
Yep.
But, ladies and gentlemen, that
That
does
is
draw us to a close for this evening. That was our last story. We hope that you enjoyed our little sojourn up the Pacific coast.
As I said, I do have an Oregon Part 2 started.
Yes, there will be more Oregon at some point down the road. But I forget how many states does that make for us? Are we about halfway through the states at this point?
Yeah, give me a second. Now I gotta go count.
Well, no, it's okay. But I mean,
No,
So-
you
so-
can count.
some of them are. Some of it's it's a little confusing for
I
us.
have a list.
But we have done a number of individual cities as well, which we're not counting as the state episodes. So it can feel like more than it actually is, maybe.
That makes 18.
Oh, that only makes 18. All right. So
I have 20 scripts completed.
but we're about a third of the way
Yeah.
through the states, and we will knock out 2 more this month because
Yes.
this with the way the month falls, we have 3 shows this month. We'll be back on the 15th and back again on the 31st.
Yes, so we'll be back on the 15th with Haunted Rhode Island.
Yep.
And we have featured a couple of different mansions from Rhode Island in our haunted houses. But then we're also going to do, at the end of the month, Haunted Arkansas.
Arkansas. What happens in Arkansas? Aside from Walmart.
Well, I mean, there was the Crescent Springs hotel that we covered already.
I know, I'm kind of kidding. We're going to find out what happens in Arkansas.
Doesn't stay in Arkansas like it does in Vegas.
Yeah. Although I will say, I mean, we did not that long ago cover the haunted Walmart in Haunted Shopping.
Yes, we did.
The one down in
And I'm
Galveston.
sure it's not the only one.
No.
But that one had a fun story attached to it.
It's an excellent story. Kind of, very sad story, of course. I mean,
Excellent historical story.
Very, yes, but they wound up. Yeah, but what happens when you build a Walmart on the site of a place where
A flooded.
100 orphans died?
And a massive hurricane.
Yeah. So, anyways, so 2 weeks, haunted Rhode Island, another 2 weeks, haunted Arkansas, and then we will figure it out from there. But we hope that you will come back and join us.
I think I have figured it out. I just don't remember what I figured out.
You'll figure it out. But in the meantime, we hope that you can come on out and join us on a tour or one of our events. Again, this Saturday we have our special event, our haunted dinner. We're going to go and do some a few of the Victorian Christmas ghost stories, and then the Saturday after that, we will be at the John Marshall House. So you can come join us for that our special Ghosts of John Marshall House and Spirits of Court End tour. And then, after that, it'll bring us 2 weeks around, and we'll be back here talking to y'all again. So thank you very much for tuning in and chatting in with us this evening here in the on the Facebook Live. If you do have any other questions, feel free to drop us a line anytime. And other than that,
We'll see you back here in 2 weeks or on a tour, whichever comes first.
y'all have a good night, everybody.
Bye.